Okay, children, today's video is going to be about the production possibility curve. And by the time this video is over, you need to be able to explain how the production possibility curve illustrates opportunity costs, efficiency, and inefficiency. And also, you need to be able to explain what a shift to the right of the production possibility curve is and what a shift to the left of the production possibility curve is. All right, children, welcome to the production possibility curve notes. This is your first video notes of the semester. I hope you're ready to learn. All right, these are your PPC notes, not the party planning committee, the production possibility curve notes. It's a little different. Your production possibility curve is a graph. It is a graphical representation of alternative combinations of goods and services an economy can produce. In this case, we're looking at a country that's either making computers or cars. This is a graphical representation of opportunity cost. If you remember on your notes yesterday, we learned about opportunity costs. And basically what opportunity cost is when someone's making a decision, whether it's a company, an individual, or a country. In this case, we're deciding between computers and cars, which ones we're going to build. As you make a decision between the two, let's say that I start making more computers. If I decide to produce more computers, my opportunity cost is going to be the cars that I'm no longer making. So this is a graphical representation of opportunity costs. If you produce only computers, your opportunity cost is all the cars that you're not actually making. Your production possibility curve. This is where you should be following along on your note sheet that you hopefully printed out. But if not, you could just draw a version of it on your own on a sheet of notebook paper. I do suggest that you draw because it's going to make it easier to remember everything and you'll actually get used to using the graph. Okay, so again, this is the opportunity cost or showing the trade-off between producing cars or computers for this country. A, this dot right here, A is going to represent an efficient point of production. A can be a point anywhere on the curve. Anywhere on this production possibility curve is going to represent efficient production, aka full employment, aka we're not wasting any of our resources like labor hours or workers or metal that's going into these computers or any of the technological equipment that's going inside these computers or cars. Anywhere on this curve. It could have been here. It could have been here. The only difference is how, like if you put it way down here, you're obviously not making any computers, and that's your opportunity costs. Letter B is going to be anywhere, letter B is going to be anywhere inside the curve. And this is going to be inefficient production point. This is going to be representing unemployment. If you're inside the curve, you're having inefficient production. You're not making as much as you should be able to. Maybe you have unemployment. Maybe people aren't working. Or maybe you have machines that are just sitting there not being used or metal that's going to waste anywhere inside this curve. So let's say that this was making, 12 computers and 10 cars. This would be like making 5 and 5. You're wasting your potential. You could be out here, but we're inside here for some reason right now, generally due to unemployment happening during a recession. So inside this curve is going to be representing inefficient production, generally a recession. Letter C is any point that is outside the curve. Anywhere outside this curve is impossible. It represents an infeasible production possibility point. So right here, when we were saying earlier that this is 12 computers and 10 cars, this would represent 20 computers and 20 cars. You can't actually do that. Maybe this country doesn't have enough people available to work. Maybe they don't have the resources to produce this. They don't have enough metal to make that many computers and cars. Maybe they just don't have the factory equipment. This is impossible out here. All right. The whole reason that the curve is bowed outward and bends back in on itself is because of increasing opportunity cost. Cars and computers aren't exactly made out of the same two things. It's not like donuts and cookies where they're essentially made out of the same stuff. Cars and computers are made out of different things. And so because of that, as you increase your production of cars, you don't give up the same amount of computers every time. Your opportunity cost actually starts to become greater and greater. So let's say for this, we go from producing 4 cars to 5 cars. So to add that 1 car, our opportunity cost is giving up 1 computer. However, to go from the 5th car to the 6th car, our opportunity cost increases all the way to 7. You have to give up 7 computers just to get this one extra car. And that's because the curve is bowed outward and bends back in on itself. And all that means is that your opportunity cost increases. It's not static. It's not the same number each time. If it was static, it would be more like you give up 1 computer for 1 car every single time. Okay, things can happen that cause the production possibility curve to shift. Shifting of curves just means that it moves inward or outward. It shifts to the left or to the right. In this case, if we have a leftward shift of the production possibility curve, we're showing a decrease in the production possibilities of an economy. This is not a recession. A recession would be if a dot was inside the curve. This is a decrease in production capacity. Recession would be like maybe we have unemployment, not enough people are working. This would be now there's fewer jobs, period. And we have the same amount of people working. We just can't make as much stuff. Potential causes here could be natural disasters. If you had a hurricane, you would probably have a destruction of natural resources or maybe capital goods like factory equipment that was sitting there. You would then no longer be able to make as much cars and computers, period, because we had destruction of factories or maybe people died and we don't have as many people available to work. Same idea here. A war would obviously destroy capital goods and factory equipment as well as take lives. You wouldn't be able to make as much stuff even with the same full employment. A decrease in the population, which could be caused by immigration, people leaving the country. If people leave your country to go live somewhere else, you won't be able to produce as many goods or services. And then finally, disease and famine could also cause the same issue. If you don't have enough food to go around, then you're not going to have enough people that are healthy enough to be working. All right, the opposite. A rightward shift of the production possibility curve would show an increase in the production possibilities of an economy. Now, with the same amount of people working or with full employment, we can make even more computers and cars. This is an increase in the ability to produce everything. Potential causes, an increase in technology. Let's say that we get better or more efficient at turning gasoline into fuel. If we were able to do that, then we would be able to have more people working, we'd be able to have more goods and services produced with the same amount of people working. Or maybe this would be an increase in technology for like maybe factory equipment gets better. So now, even given the same amount of metal and workers, we can make twice as many cars or computers. Again, more better resources, increased access to resources. Education. This could be an increase in human capital. Human capital being people going to college or getting trained in some sort of skill. That would also cause a shift to the right in the production possibility curve. So more people have greater knowledge and skills. The same amount of people can make more computers and cars. And then finally, it could also be an increase. Good gravy. It could also be an increase in population, maybe caused by immigration. If people move into the country, now, even with the same amount of factory equipment and stuff, we can make more things because we have more available workers. Remember, I said earlier that there could be a point outside the curve that was impossible. Well, if more people move into the country, the whole curve could shift to the right, and then it would become possible. All right, children, and finally I'm going to show you the business cycle. So right here, I'd like you to draw along with me. This is going to be the business cycle. And basically all this is just showing that over time, let's call this curve our GDP curve. Over time, our GDP is always going up or always increasing. However, there are times, well, first, you should remember the word GDP from last year. GDP is your gross domestic product, aka it's just your production. It's just how much stuff that your country is making in any given year. And so over time, our GDP is always expanding, although there are times when your GDP is going up more quickly than others. And that's going to be called an expansion. This is when the economy is expanding. During an expansion, we're going to have low unemployment and high production. low unemployment, and higher prices. All right. Other times in our business cycle, there'll be times when your production is on the way down, when you're making less stuff. And that's going to be called a recession. During a recession, you're going to have high unemployment and lower prices. Now, there's 2 points on the curve also where we bottom out. That's just going to be called a trough. You'll just need to remember that that's where we bottom out. It's not really, this is like a point on the graph. It's like 1 day in time. It's not something that you really need to worry about. The two most important parts are the expansion and the recession. We're concerned about when we're growing quickly and when our economy is actually shrinking. And then finally, when we get to the top, when the expansion is ending and we are starting the recession again, this would be called our peak. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure that you watch the next video that shows some examples of how to actually make your own production possibility curve.